Let's talk about art journaling with the moon for the week of June 19th to the 25th. So before we get into the nitty gritty details of it, I just wanted to check in and see if you had a chance to art journal with the new moon. I'm personally still just finishing up the page that I created, and it was actually a great adventure. Ended up doing this amazing, beautiful rebirthing of myself because the moon in Gemini was sitting in my first house, which is the house of my body, my true essence, my core self. So I really got to connect in with that part of myself and think about what a fresh start might look like in my life. Hope you had a chance to think about what fresh start you wanted to imagine for yourself, especially where the new moon in Gemini was actually focusing its energy on according to your astrological house. If you don't get that information yet or don't understand that, you can always follow along in my creative moon cycle guides, which I mail out free every new moon. So all you have to do is just get on the list and I will send that right out. So let's get right into the week and see what you have to look forward to and what kind of lunar energy you might be wanting to work with in your art journal this week. As you might know, I like to align the inner work I do with the seasons and with the moon. I suspect this happens naturally, even when I'm not consciously choosing to do it, but there's something deep and meaningful to me when I make the effort to tune into nature and the cosmos and move with the energy that is already there. Like riding a wave that is already flowing or moving in a certain direction versus producing all the energy on my own. This week, in the Northern Hemisphere, we find ourselves in the peak of the year, celebrating the summer solstice. The season of summer is a great time to do inner work that helps you tap into your creative potential, find your voice, and share your unique gifts with the world, or in other words, shine your light. At the summer solstice, the sun shines brightest, symbolizing vitality, passion, and creativity. Astrologically, the sun represents our core essence and individuality. By connecting with the energy of the sun this week, we can ignite our creative fire and embrace our true selves. This year, this is enhanced by the fact that we just passed a Gemini new moon, which holds a similar energy that wants to help you express your true self. Just as the sun radiates its light, we too have an inner light waiting to be expressed. But if you're a highly sensitive late bloomer like me, expressing your light or allowing your soul to shine in this world hasn't been easy. You've probably had to deal with your fair share of overwhelm and self sabotaging behaviors, or chronic stress and anxiety, or a loud, mean inner critic voice, or self doubt that stops you from moving forward, or a trauma response that dysregulates your body. And or just being even easily depleted. The moon knows a thing or two about energy. It builds and builds and builds until it reaches peak. And as you'll see in this diagram, that's what the moon is doing this week. It's building its energy. In the natural rhythm of life, wherever things grow, peak, and then slowly start to wane. And right now, we're still building towards that energy. It's going to move towards the full moon in Capricorn. But this week we're going to work with the new moon energy still if you want to in the first couple days of the week. And then we move into working with the energy of the waxing crescent phases. So on Monday, the moon is in a water sign. It's actually in the sign that it's most at home with because it's in the sign of Cancer. It's a great day for self care. So, how can you take care of your body today? How can you take care of your emotional self? And how can you take care of your spiritual self? The journal prompt that we're working with today in our art journals is to draw, paint, or collage an image that represents what taking care of your spiritual self means. On Tuesday, the moon's moving into the sign of Leo. It's a good day to deepen your understanding of your core essence or your divine self because Leo is ruled by the sun, which is moving towards that peak of energy at the summer solstice. So think about what are the qualities and characteristics of your true self? How do you recognize when you are connected to your true self? What are the signs and sensations you experience when you're connected to your true self? The journal prompt that we're working on is just to draw, paint, or collage an image that represents your divine self. Obviously, that's a really lofty goal. So just have fun, play, don't get too serious. What colors would you use to represent your true self? What shapes, what images, what symbols? On Wednesday, we're working with that waxing crescent phase, and it's also the summer solstice. So it's a good day to revisit your new moon intentions, and it's a really great day to imagine your relationship with your divine self is growing like the moon as well. So reflect on how developing a stronger connection with your divine self will support your new moon intentions to grow. The journal prompt is to create an image that represents your divine self, treating your inner parts with compassion and love. On Thursday, the moon is having an intense relationship with the planet Mars. Mars likes us to take action, be bold, be confident. And so in our art journals, we're playing with the idea of building an altar to your divine self. So thinking about worshiping your divine self, thinking about what that's like to love and respect and honor your divine self so much. When you're creating that altar, have fun with thinking about what kind of sacred symbols represent the qualities and characteristics of your true essence? What kind of colors? What would you bring as a sacred object? So you can either take a photo of a sacred object that you would imagine putting on the altar to your divine self, or you can play around with collage or just draw and paint different symbols. You can also add some I am statements or some affirmations that reflect the qualities that you believe your true essence to hold. On Friday, the moon is having an intense relationship with Saturn, so it's a good day to set healthy boundaries, be emotionally mature, and commit to an action that will help you move forward toward your dreams. So, in your art journal, you can visually represent an action that you promise to take in the next 2 weeks to support your new moon intentions becoming a reality. It's really helpful in your art journal when you revisit your new moon intentions. So, you're not just placing them at the new moon, but you're actually working with the different phases and the different signs that the moon is in and the different relationships it's having with planets to revisit your new moon intentions and give it a little bit of more oomph and power as the moon grows. When you're thinking of the moon this week in your rising sign, I was looking specifically connecting to that sun in Cancer or where the summer solstice is happening. Because from now until when the sun moves in Leo, whenever the moon is reflecting the light from the sun, which is that's what it does, it reflects the light from the sun, it's reflecting the light from the sun in Cancer. So that shine your divine self energy, if your rising sign, so not your sun sign, not your moon sign, and I have a video to help you understand how to find your rising sign, so you can check that out on my YouTube channel. But if your rising sign is Aries, that shine your divine light energy is happening in your fourth house, because your fourth house is where the sign of Cancer is. And so you want to think about, what is shining my divine self, or what does my divine self, what qualities and characteristics does it have in regards to my home, my living situation, or my relationship with my parents, or my childhood self, or even just the emotional foundation from which you came, or your relationship with your ancestors. So you can explore those different areas of your life and think, okay, what does shining my divine self look like in that area of my life? With those of you who have the Taurus as your rising sign, that moon this week is actually moving from your third house all the way to your sixth house, but that sun in Cancer energy, Cancer is in your third house. And so that's where you want to think about. It's actually one of my favorite houses in the chart, because it's the house of the goddess. It's the house of moon rituals and nature rituals. So you can think about shining your divine self in communication, because it's also the house of how you express yourself, how you communicate. So, how would your divine self really communicate when you're moving and operating from your true essence? It's also the house of your peers and siblings. So, thinking about what shining your divine self in those areas looks like as well. For Gemini people like me, that moon is moving from our second house to our fifth house this week. And the sun is in Cancer, which is our second house. So, you want to think about shining your divine self, what that means to you in your relationship with money, finances, the things you own or your assets, and your income, or in other words, the way you earn a living. So, what does your divine self, how does it want to express itself there? Or what relationship do you want to shift and change when it comes to your divine self and your relationship with money? For those of you with a rising sign in Cancer, the moon is moving from your first house to your fourth house, and that sun in Cancer energy is happening in your first house. So that's the house where you're thinking about shining my divine self in relationship to my body, my identity, my sense of vitality, my appearance or how I want to appear in the world, and my spirit or your core essence. So it really is the house of your divine self as well. So it's a really great time for you to connect with that deeper self. For those of you with the sign of Leo, the moon is moving through the 12th house to the third house, and you're sitting with that sun in Cancer is being in your 12th house. So you want to think about what shining your divine self in your relationship with the infinite, or in your relationship with your inner shadows, or the deep inner work. How does shining your divine self in those areas support you? So for me, I would be thinking of like, okay, how can my divine self support all the inner parts that live within me, that live in my shadows or in my subconscious realm? If your rising sign is Virgo, that moon is moving through your 11th house to your second house this week. And that sun in Cancer energy is actually in your 11th house. So, this is where you're thinking, how do I shine my divine self in my friendships, groups, community, or in my hopes and wishes? And remember that moon energy, that lunar energy, is actually going to be reflecting that sun in Cancer for about a month. So, this is not just this week, it's for a little bit of a longer time. If your rising sign is Libra, the moon is moving through your 10th house all the way to your first house this week. And that sun in Cancer energy that's going to be with us for about a month is going to be concentrated in your 10th house. This is where you're thinking about, what does shining my divine self look like in my career or in my public reputation, or how I see myself professionally, or your relationship with hard work. So, how does your divine self want to express itself in those areas of your life? If your rising sign is Scorpio, the moon is moving through your ninth to your 12th house, and that sun in Cancer is going to be in your ninth house. So you're thinking about what shining your divine self in your relationship with long distance travel, or where your spirituality, your faith, your higher learning, any publishing that might have to do with your career, any adventure, or your relationship with enthusiasm and the future. So, how do you think about it? How enthusiastic do you feel about the future, or what is even your relationship with enthusiasm like? Do you allow your divine self to really be excited and enthusiastic about things? If your rising sign is Sagittarius, the moon is moving through your 8th to your 11th house. So that sun in Cancer is in your 8th house. And this is where you're thinking about shining your divine self in terms of your psyche, in terms of any shared money, any debt, financial or otherwise, even sometimes including ancestral debt, your relationship with your taxes, or your relationship with death. So you're thinking about, wow, if I really bring in my divine self and move from and make decisions from my divine self, how would those areas of my life be different? If your rising sign is Capricorn, the moon is moving through your 7th to your 10th house. So that sun in Cancer energy is in your 7th house. So you're thinking about, how can I shine my divine self, or what does my divine self look like in my marriage or my close intimate relationships, or a really important partnership of some kind, or even your relationship with harmony, balance, and compromise. So when I'm moving from my divine self, how do I bring those qualities into my marriage or into my relationships or into my partnerships? If your rising sign is Aquarius, the moon is moving through your 6th house to your 9th house. That sun in Cancer energy that's going to be with us for about a month is in your 6th house. So that's your house of health and work routines and relationships with a beloved pet, or your relationship with details and order. So you want to think, okay, if I'm shining my divine self or I'm really moving in the world from my divine self, what does that look like in my health, or how does it affect my health? Or what would it change about my daily work tasks or my daily work routines? And finally, if your rising sign is in Pisces, the moon is moving through your second house to your fifth house this week. But that sun in Cancer energy is in your fifth house. So you're thinking about how you shine your divine self in a creative project that you're working on, or even just your relationship with your creativity, or your sex life, your parenting, your children, or your relationship with joy, pleasure, celebration, and passion. How does your divine self want to move in the world when you think of those areas of your life? So enjoy reflecting on those and make sure that you follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. You might even want to join my Facebook community, Art Journal with the Moon. And that's where you'll get daily insights and daily tips of how to really work with this lunar energy in your art journal. So have fun, my friends. I hope you enjoy connecting and tending to your soul and practicing magic in your art journal this week.